So, hello, fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 6455463728. And I guess AI can make us better. That's a real thing. I mean, we all have heard that AI is coming for our jobs. But I feel like AI can really make us better people. It can make us like superhuman people? I don't know. But, so the author of Moneyball and The Big Short and Flash Boys and a number of other books and so on. He has a podcast, and his podcast is Against the Rules. And I think maybe it might have been prompted by Trump, and it's supposed to be a podcast about the referees. One of these happened to be like more about the coaches than the referees. Um, Referees in life in the world, like the SEC, for example, governing bodies and so on. Anyway, um, he had one podcast that, wow, I had to listen to that stuff more than once um, because it was just so interesting, eye-opening in terms of what it means for us. Now, the podcast had to do with, to an extent, like Moneyball kind of thing, where people are getting better, getting baseball players better at throwing a baseball faster. And basically, you're shown video of, or you use AIs to examine recordings. And I guess, it's not so much an AI in this particular case where you take photography, like, uh, what would you term it? Where you can see really fast things. So you have video of baseball pitchers um, throwing baseballs. And the idea is that apparently coaches in baseball don't really coach that much. They make sure that the players do what they're supposed to and they keep fit and they eat and they have somebody on them, but they're not really out there actually making the players better. Anyway, suffice to say that there's a guy who's making baseball players throw faster. And I guess there was a lead up to it where he thinks that the baseball players should figure it out on their own. Ultimately, the bottom line with his story was that you look at baseball players, and maybe it might just be in that specific case of one baseball player, but it seemed to be more expansive. If you have somebody who has a really fast arm motion, but the ball is not as fast as it should be based on how fast their arms are moving, you can get them to develop their potential. And the specific way in this instance, they still don't know how it works, but you just get them to pitch with a much heavier ball because when you do that, your body instinctively looks for the best way to pitch the ball. So the idea is that you have this arm speed, but you're not living up to your potential. You give somebody a heavier ball, and I guess this would have been developed with AI. Anyway, the whole idea is that they were talking about one guy, this case study, talking to the guy, and he improved his um, pitching so much so that he was probably going to um, end up out of the minor leagues, and now he's making like $5 million a year, and everybody's happy with him in the major leagues, or at least when the podcast was recorded. And I was like, wow, that is really cool. And I think there is, I'd gone looking to see if Moneyball had made it to tennis, and apparently it hadn't, because nobody wants to share the information that they could have of tennis players playing. Maybe with the tennis players, I'm not sure. Anyway, there was another, and this is supposed to be AI software, and I guess what we're getting from it is results, not necessarily the AI going over this stuff. Um, but a guy used recorded calls, like sales calls, and he had the AI go over the calls, and he came up with the people, the procedures that made people sell better. So basically, he came up with the answer, which is you should be talking 46% of the time, as in less than the person you're trying to sell to, and you should ask exactly 13 questions. No more, not much more, not much less than that. That's the ideal number of questions that you should ask. And when you do a sales call, for example, they can go over your sales calls and give you like a scorecard at the end of a sales call to say, did you perform your best? Um, was this a good sales call based on the AI going over the information? And I was like, wow, that is so cool. I suppose I'm gonna do a short maybe on that, which is that would you like it if salespeople could sell you anything? I'm sure most of us would probably hate that. But would you like it if your salesman could sell other people anything? I'm sure you probably would. But yeah, it's just wow. So now we can make salesmen better. That's crazy. Which reminds me, I went to the bank today and the teller that I dealt with was really nice. So I figure I asked him like, if there was any way to um, give him a good grade, and he gave me a card. So, and I guess there's a survey thing you can go do, so I have to go do that. Anyway, the last bit, and I guess it's the most relevant, but it opens the doorway to everything else, is that they had an AI again, maybe it's the same AI with the calls and so on, go over people's um, date, dating conversations, speed dating conversations, and come up with the optimal behavior to come across as pleasant. And the idea was that, what was it? Ask a lot of questions, especially leading questions, and those will make you seem like a more likable person, a more attractive person. Also, I guess they went over other conversations as well. And the idea is that you can fake it till you make it. High status people apparently talk a bit. They're freer and they're more free to joke around. So the idea is that if you can land a joke in a conversation with a group of people around, and there was the idea that, oh, there's a lot of polite laughter, but if you can get a real, genuine, appropriate joke landed and one person laughs, they didn't quantify the status, but you apparently achieve a huge boost in your status. Um, so yeah, you should be able, if you can get a good joke in humor apparently goes well with you achieving status. Um, Unfortunately, I can think of situations where you might be in a scenario where somebody else wants your position and they're jealous of you, and then they go behind your back after you've left, and because you have gotten this status, they just say bad things about you afterwards, and that works worse. Um, yeah, but it has me thinking. If this is what you can do, why don't you just people just have an AI go over their life um, and tell them ways that they could lose weight. And you can have this AI in your ear that's saying, Sharon, Sharon, don't park so close to the entrance of the grocery or the mall or wherever it is. Or Sharon, come on, you can have one bite of that pizza and that's it. You want to feel full? We have some steamed carrots. We can put just some, salt and whatever, and that will taste. I know you prefer this, Sharon. And remember what we did this the other day? That would be mind blowing. That would be mind blowing if, well, I mean, there's that with respect to weight. I mean, what about with respect to smoking? When you're looking to smoke, you press a button and you have this recording in your ear, or this AI that's telling you, hey, you need to eat at 10 a.m. exactly, because otherwise you're gonna be hungry, and if you're hungry, that you're not gonna be able to eat. So then you're gonna want to have a cigarette. So go and eat. It's just, and I'm thinking that I'm not doing a good job of this, but how about we just have AIs go over all the data in our lives and spit out and say, listen, you have arguments with your family at around 12 o'clock every day, and it's probably because you didn't eat at this time. And then you just reduce the argument. Or, you spend too much money on coffee, so da 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 da. Or, just anything else. If we could have that kind of, just look for gold mines in our lives, the gold mines and the real mines that explode, and show us how to navigate those landmines without blowing them up, and to achieve what we want uh, with the smallest amount of effort in our regular lives. If we could just a pedometer, I mean, and that's already happening, I guess. That is already happening where you can wear a Fitbit or something like that and see how you actually sleeping, um, like whether or not you have a heart problem, that it came out with the Apple Watch. Wow. AI is yeah, potentially a threat in terms of the jobs that it's going to take. But, one of the things that I also mentioned is that some people are not going to allow the AIs to do that. Like doctors, for example, they have to train the systems and they have to okay the systems, and it's very easy for them to just freeze out a particular system. Or, let's say, for example, telemedicine. They can just say, no, that's not a good idea in this region or this country, or those doctors are not certified, or blah 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 blah, so no telemedicine for you. You know, you get nothing, even though it's cheaper, because richer people are going to go to the telemedicine route too, and we don't want anybody to get it to disrupt our payments and so on. So no, we're not going to okay it in this country. I mean, I was talking to somebody online and YouTube videos and stuff, and I was like, listen, in the middle of the pandemic in Korea, the government wanted to increase the number of doctors and medical staff by having an increasing number of people who are enrolled in schools, the number of schools, and the medical system went on strike. So yeah, there's some people, and the government just had to give up on that whole idea, because doctors and medical personnel were like, nope, we're not okay with this. But all in all, I'm just excited for the positives that we can get out of having AI go over our data. Um, I thought one of the examples was a good one where the same person who, one of the people, sorry, who was using um, the sales software to increase their sales was prompted to offer a story where their spouse said that they were more patient. After they said themselves after a social event that they didn't feel that they were as patient as they could have been. They were interrupting people. Their spouse was like, well, you're getting better at it. And I don't know why, but, you know, the author Michael Lewis, he was like, did you tell them that you're using this software at work to do that? And they're like, no, of course not. I'm like, why? Of course not. I don't understand that one. But anyway, it is what it is. Hopefully you're a little as excited as I am about it. I mean, for ordinary people, it might not have an effect yet, but I'm really excited for an AI to maybe tell me like, the best time for you to study is now, or the best time for you to have lunch is 5 minutes from now. And yeah, that would really be cool. Yeah, it's probably not going to happen anytime soon. Anyway, thanks for listening. If you did, peace.